Good morning, good morning. It's Monday and we're back like we never went away. This is TV3 Newday and I'm sure you're happy and excited as well. Well, if Grace found you and you are healthy and alive like we are also very fine and happy to see you again. So it's another beautiful week. We're starting off with a lot of energy, with a lot of vim and verve, and we trust that you're doing very, very fine. Well, this morning, a couple of issues will come up. We'll have those conversations. We'll have a newspaper review segment. Of course, we'll have sports. We have a bit of entertainment and some very topical issues. Yesterday, the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, spoke to the nation. That will be the 26th time since COVID came, and he admitted that there's been some bit of a hiatus, prior to that speaking to us. But yesterday he spoke. He made some very categorical statements, one of which says that we're going to set up a committee that will look at, how we're going to develop our own vaccines. We'd like to take you back sometime into February, later in the show, to run you by what exactly has been happening since that time. But something that knocked me off this weekend is the fact that a lady put on Facebook that she got to the airport. She had previously had a test. She got to the airport only to be told that she was, COVID positive. She had tested positive for it. She was given two options. You either have 500 Ghana cedis to pay on a daily basis to spend 3 days at the hotel, during which you'll be monitored, you'll be quarantined, and then your test results will be given to you thereafter, or vice versa. If you don't have the 500 Ghana cedis, according to this lady, you are going to be put at the Pantine Hospital. Now, that was even not the problem for her. The big problem for her was that she was giving food, and she showed us the food. I mean, yes, two slices of bread, some macaroni or whatever it is, some small carrot and cabbage, and then there's egg, and then there's a half cup of what looks like Milo. That's it. No options. It's put at your door, and for 3 days you're paying 500 Ghana cedis for that. And she thought that was quite unfair. Remember that earlier when mandatory quarantine was happening, even some 5-star hotels were giving people, beddings that were torn and all of that. The key question is that if we are going back to mandatory quarantine and we are asking people to go into that mode, we're using security to muzzle them, because that's what she said, muzzle them into buses if they tested positive, then we may as well treat them very, very fine. And guess what? She said once she made noise about it, 2 days on, the next day she was told that she's negative. Bella is joining us. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Weekend was cool?
It was okay. I mean, it could have been longer, but for some reason,
why do you always want your weekend to be longer?
I wish weekends were like 5 days and
really?
the working days were 2 days.
You don't want to work?
Maybe I was hoping that the president would do that switch as well. Reduce contact hours, so maybe work 2 days and relax for 5 days. But good morning to everyone. I hope you had a good weekend. How about you, though?
I'm alive. I'm greater than Accra. Someone suggested that when the president earlier had mentioned that organizations should have a system where people work from home,
the shift system,
the shift system. Some companies didn't do that. They were still running a full throttle as if nothing has ever happened. So she was praying that the president yesterday wouldn't have reiterated that or even put us under lockdown, because that would have been dire for most of those companies. But the questions about COVID keep coming up. So I'm thinking about what Dr. Yabediaku told us in February, and the period that he said is mandatory, or if you like, is the most essential, most required, between when you take your first jab and when you get the booster. That's your second jab. We are long gone past that. The Minister for Health was in Parliament. It was in one of the press conferences, the Meet the Press, and he mentioned that we're going to get our vaccines by the end of June, mid-July, you remember? So it sounded like 3:34 up to 5. And I was wondering what kind of timeline that was. Today is the 26th of July. There is no sign of the vaccine. And the people on the streets keep asking us, where are the vaccines? Because they think that we interact with the politicians, the duty bearers, and we keep asking the questions and nobody is answering the questions. I would have thought that yesterday the president would have told us that, the vaccines are here, because 2 months ago he mentioned the 300,000 Sputnik V vaccines, which was heavily denied by government communicators and party people. Yeah. It turns out that Marcus Tobiasen, the Norwegian journalist, was able to elicit that information out of Mr. Kenoforiata, who had indicated that some 300,000 of it had been paid. The health minister at the Sputnik bipartisan committee had also come to confirm the 300,000. And so where are those vaccines? That's a question on the minds of many Ghanaians.
I thought I heard that they said for the enumerators who went out, to count as they had administered some of these vaccines to them. And so I'm assuming that that should be the situation. I mean, yesterday the president did mention that we're expecting some more vaccines. I mean, Pfizer from the COVAX facility as well. I do understand when you're saying that we're hoping that he would say they're here. But I think they've also been very vocal about how difficult it's been in the last few weeks to, to procure these vaccines as well. I would have hoped that it would have been here by now, because there are lots of people who took their first jab who don't know the state of, the situation at the moment. And we still don't have enough information as to how long
it will take,
it will take for them to get in. At least we're told that sometime this month or next month we should receive it. I do hope that it gets in on time. And for people who have gone beyond the 12 weeks, of taking the first jab and having to take their second, what's going to happen to them? Because you speak to health professionals and they say that there's really no data beyond the 12 weeks as to how long it can provide protection. But they're very sure that at least there will still be some protection. Now we're hearing, and I watched this on CNN because there was a health, personnel that said that even after you've taken the double dose, it does not necessarily stop you from falling sick like we thought, or being hospitalized.
In fact, our own Noguchi told us that people who are taking the double shot are contracting the virus.
Exactly, and you may fall sick, and you may even end up in the hospital. And so then we're asking those questions that if those who have taken the double jab may even end up in the hospital, how about those who haven't taken at all and those who have taken just one? What happens to us? And we need explanations for these things. Of course, now we're being told that we have to protect ourselves because we're letting our guards down, but we need more information on that. And one thing that I thought the president was silent about was, the land borders. I'm not sure I heard him talk about it, especially because we've all been asking what the way forward is, because if there are still illegal routes that people are using to enter the country, and we're told that there are some immigration officers who are allegedly taking bribe to allow people in and out of the country, what is being done?
We actually filmed them. We filmed them on the broken borders. We showed you how officers on the borders are complicit of that. They are taking monies. They actually had a price list allowing people to come in and out. So this whole idea of beaches and nightclubs remain closed. I mean, we know what's happening in town. I mean, go right behind the police headquarters. We know what's happening in town. Go right on the beaches. The beaches are not closed. People. So when sorry to say, but when the president said those things or says those things, I want to believe that the people who write the speech for the president are not being altogether honest and truthful with the president. Because you go out to town and you see that the beaches have, the pubs are opened, the nightclubs are functioning. So you're asking yourselves, when the president says all of these things remain closed, what's the point? Because we banned them a long time ago. We're still banning them now. And the bigger question for me is that up until now, when we admitted that people within the creative industry, tourism, hospitality sector, and other allied businesses or those in the value chain had difficulty trying to survive and sustain their businesses, we said we're going to give them NBSSI loans. We asked them to go through a rigorous process. We were checking whether they had paid their taxes or not. We're checking for their tax identification numbers. We're checking for all of those things. And we're doing the valuation. We did that. Now, MBSSI has metamorphosed into Ghana Enterprises Agency, launched by the president himself. Ask yourself if all the people who went through that tedious process have been able to get their stimulus packages to them. So now, again, if we're talking about banning them, which, I mean, the science supports, the data supports, where where is the stimulus package?
For these people.
We just talk. Where is the stimulus package? We just talk.
And it's not just them, because again, just
schools
last week,
everywhere.
To Dr. Mankra, and prior to that, I had spoken to a lab technician who has been complaining incessantly about the fact that even though there was a promise made to frontline health workers to receive some insurance, they still have not received it. And he said that he had heard that some medical professionals had received. But then I spoke to Dr. Emmanuel Amankra, and he said that he's not aware of any frontline health worker receiving the insurance.
Can you imagine?
Now, this lab scientist fell sick twice and had to pay for his own drugs.
On his own?
On his own.
From his pocket?
Exactly.
Wow.
And he's been complaining because he says that we put our lives, at risk to test to make sure that the numbers came down, and we're still not getting the insurance package that we're promised. So what is happening?
So then the question is,
issues.
All the monies that we borrowed, because we borrowed money for the sake of COVID, and at the time when we were borrowing these monies, it was at that same time when we were being told that, frontline health workers were going to get 50% salary more, they were going to get insurance, they were going to get this, they were going to get... Now, if they are coming back to tell us that they were not getting it, and remember in the very early days, they were complaining about PPEs not being available, some had to buy on their own and all of that. Now, all of the money that we went to borrow is finished. The monies that we went to borrow to be able to solve these problems, the monies are finished. The people are complaining that the things that were promised them, they did not get. So the question is, if after 3 weeks we said it was becoming too expensive, so we had to stop at the point. Because I asked that question on the screen. You remember one morning, I asked whether it was an economic decision or a scientific and data-based decision. I asked it on the screen, 20th April, 2020. I remember. And then I was told it was not an economic decision. But later events and explanations at press conferences would explain to us that it was really largely an economic decision. So if for 3 weeks we were able to do that, okay, now we're asking ourselves, the people we promised to give these monies to, they say they are not getting the monies, but the money is finished. Sikanu wahin. Where is the money? It is COVID money. It is not some church fundraising money that they want to use to do asphalting in the church, or they want to do pavement blocks or buy new chairs or microphones or speakers. It is COVID-19 management money. And government officials are quick to always say that, and at some point we even praise that we are managing COVID the best in the world, or we are among the best that are managing it in the world. That's past glory. What is the story now? How are we managing the situation now? And so when the president speaks, especially Mr. President, when you speak and say, all pubs and nightclubs remain closed, all beaches remain closed. Mr. President, you need to disguise yourself one of these days and sit in a small vehicle like ex-President Rawlings used to do and go around the places yourselves. The people around you who tell you that these things are closed and that they write it in their speeches and supervise same for you to come and read to the nation, Sundays of all days, holy days, they are not being truthful to you, Mr. President. They know it. They know it. They are not being truthful. Some of them own some of these places. They have shares in it. They know it, Mr. President. So don't allow yourself to be deceived, Mr. President. When they tell you that these things are not happening, they're telling lies to you. They are not being truthful to you, Mr. President. They are not being truthful to you. And you see, now everybody seems to be talking about a third wave. Yeah. And with the coming of a supposed third wave or the fear of a third wave, we are torn between the procurement of the vaccine and the third wave. Where do we turn? Yeah. Nobody is talking to us about vaccines anymore.
Well, I mean, the president did mention that we're going to procure some vaccines. In fact, just to be fair, he did mention that we're expecting some Pfizer vaccines, from the African Union and also from the United States. We're expecting some 249,000 AstraZeneca. So 1 million Pfizer vaccines from the US of America, 29,670 Pfizer vaccines from the AU, and 249,000 AstraZeneca vaccines from the United Kingdom. And he says that we're also in the process of procuring 17 million single dose per person Johnson & Johnson vaccines through the African Medicine Supply Platform in this quarter.
Okay, AJ, please play the president's tape from 2 months ago, when the president announced to us 2 months ago on his 25th address to the nation, talking about we are in the process of getting 300,000 doses of Sputnik V, and it says it has been approved by the FDA, a sharp contrast from what the Minister for Health at the table when he was under the what do you call the Sputnik bipartisan committee was talking about. Now this is the president, which makes me think that again the minister may be taking the fall for a lot of people, because the president on the 25th update 2 months ago mentioned that FDA had approved this and we're expecting it. It means that it went all the way to the cabinet level. So where the Minister for Health says that, oh, cabinet is not aware, parliament is not aware, he's trying to be a leader, he's trying to take the fall. But is he the only one in there? How did the people, for example, get the letters of credit to be able to do the procurement? How did all of that happen? And you see, even with our new gift make system, it makes it even more, because once the money drops in, the processes are a step-by-step processes will tell you where the money is coming from and where it's going and for what purpose it's going and who is in charge of it. So that explanation by Honorable Minister for Health, Honorable Minister MP for Doma Central, for me it doesn't work. Let's look at the president on his 25th address to the nation, talking about we are going to. 2 months on, we are still doing, we are going to. Listen.
The first batch of AstraZeneca vaccines from the COVAX facility, together with the procurement and receipt of others, we have rolled out 2 phases of our vaccination plan. The first phase involved vaccinating a segment of the population in 43 districts, that is, health workers, persons with comorbidities, persons above the age of 60, physically challenged persons, journalists, frontline security personnel, and a cross-section of persons in the 3 arms of government. The second phase involved vaccinating all other health workers across the country. Nearly 1 million people have now received the first dose of the vaccine. International vaccine politics and the unpredictability of the supply chain, as well as the third wave of infections in some countries in Europe and Asia, have meant that we have not been able to secure as many vaccines and vaccinated as many Ghanaians as we would have wanted at this stage. In spite of these obstacles, the target is to vaccinate some 20 million Ghanaians, i.e. the entire adult population of Ghana, by the end of the year. In the past few days, government has, through COVAX, received an additional 350,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccines. These will be added to existing stock to provide the second jab for the 360,000 persons in the 43 districts in the Greater Accra, Ashanti and Central regions who received their first jabs from 1st to 9th March. I'm happy to announce that beginning Wednesday the 19th of May to Wednesday 26th May, the deployment of the second dose of vaccines will take place across the designated vaccination centers in the 43 districts, approximately 12 weeks after the first jab, as the science prescribes. More details of the deployment will be communicated by the Ghana Health Service in the coming week. Efforts are being made to ensure that those who receive their first jabs after the 9th of March will in due course receive their second. We are expecting an additional 300,000 doses of Sputnik 5 vaccines, which have already been approved by the Food and Drugs Authority to arrive in the country. As and when we make further progress in the acquisition of vaccines, the Ministries of Health and Information will make this known to you. We're making all efforts to achieve our overall vaccination target.
That was the President of the Republic some 2 months ago. And as our teachers always tell us, we like to see the efforts, but we want to feel the results. And you see, the President was talking in a futuristic
But he said, as and when we make progress, we'll apprise
So we have
you
not
of
made
it.
progress.
So that's what he's apprising us of, that now we're expecting those number of vaccines as well. So
2 months ago, we're told of that number.
No, he says we're expecting some AstraZeneca.
I am saying that
there was or AstraZeneca, he said?
No, Sputnik. This was Sputnik.
No, but now they've even cancelled that deal anyway.
Oh, so there was a deal.
Which is problem. But that's what they said, that contract has been cancelled.
So there was a deal.
Well, that's what the health minister said, that the contract has now been cancelled,
well, so
which is problematic.
So if the president is talking about the deal, he spoke about it 2 months ago. 2 months down the line, the health minister is sitting at the table and telling us that cabinet didn't know about it. Then you see where the problem is.
Exactly.
Because the president addressed the nation. The president is the chairman of cabinet. And he told us that we are expecting 300,000 doses of AstraZeneca approved by the FDA.
Sputnik or AstraZeneca? That's what I need
Sputnik,
to know.
sorry.
Exactly. But this was before the Norwegian reporters, So
the president
right?
spoke before Marcus Tobiasen of the VG, the Norwegian newspaper, had spoken with Mr. Kenoforiata, and we played that tape for you exclusively as well, where Mr. Kenoforiata confirmed that we had actually paid for 300,000. So now, President says we are expecting 300,000. Finance Minister confirms that we have paid 300,000 to a Norwegian investigative journalist. Health Minister says that deal has been cancelled. Cabinet was not aware. Finance Minister is part of Cabinet. President chairs Cabinet. Health Minister is on Cabinet. Information Minister is on Cabinet. Lands and Natural Resources Minister is on Cabinet. Minister for Education is on Cabinet. So they all sit there. Is it the case, really, that Cabinet did not know about that deal? Or, again, I'm asking, is the health minister trying to take the fall for everybody? And while we are asking those questions, we're asking when the vaccines are coming in. Because, like the president alluded to, there is a science. 12 weeks, there's a science. WHO has not changed that timeline. So the people who took their vaccines in March, April, May, June, July, gone past 12 weeks.
What happens?
What happens to them?
Are they going to start all over again?
Are they
that's
going
the explanation
to lose?
that I also need.
You get the point.
Yeah, do they start all over? Do they take their double jab again, or are they only going to take a single jab? Are they still protected at this point, even though they are relying on just that single jab and it's gone beyond 12 weeks? What's happening to our land borders? That's my biggest concern as well.
Charlie, Brofono Dosudodo. We'll see you after the break. There's too much English in the system.
Yeah.
It's a public health issue. Brofono Dosudodo. Brofuna Dosudodo. We'll see you after the break. Blofo e facho.
We'll be back.